Scary telling.
I was thrilled when my friends asked me to join them for an escape room experience. We had heard about a new escape room that had opened up in the town, and everyone was talking about it. It was supposed to be the most challenging one yet, and we were all excited to give it a try. We arrived at the location, a tall building with a sign that read Escape Reality, and we eagerly made our way to the entrance. As soon as we stepped inside, we were greeted by a young woman who introduced herself as the game master. She explained the rules to us and told us that there was no time limit for this particular escape room. We should have wondered more about the total lack of time limit, but we were too eager to get started. The game master led us to the first room, which was dimly lit and had a creepy vibe to it. The room was decorated to look like an old, abandoned hospital, and the air had a musty smell to it. We looked around the room and found a few clues that we were able to piece together. It seemed like we were making progress, but then things took a turn for the worse. As we were working on solving a puzzle, we heard a loud noise coming from the other side of the room. It sounded like something was trying to break through the walls. We were all startled and immediately stopped what we were doing. The game master assured us that it was just part of the experience and urged us to continue. Despite our unease, we continued to work on solving the puzzles. We soon realized that the clues were leading us to a hidden door in the wall. We pushed the door open and found ourselves in a small, dark room. The room was empty except for a single object sitting in the middle of the floor, a rusty old key. We all looked at each other, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, we heard the loud noise again, and this time it sounded much closer. We quickly realized that we were not alone in the room. We could hear the sound of something scratching at the door, trying to get in. We scrambled to find a way out, but the door was sealed shut. We were trapped, and whatever was trying to get in was getting closer by the second. We were filled with terror and didn't know what to do. The game master's voice came through the speaker, telling us to find a way out before it was too late. We frantically searched the room for any clues that could help us escape. As we were searching, the scratching at the door grew louder and more frenzied. It was clear that whatever was trying to get in was desperate to do so. We finally found a hidden lever, and as soon as we pulled it, the door slowly creaked open. We ran out of the room, relieved to be free of the terror that had engulfed us. As we were leaving, the game master handed us a note. It read, "Congratulations on escaping the first room. But remember, the game is not over yet." Little did we know, this was only the beginning of our terrifying experience at Escape Reality. After our harrowing experience in the first room of Escape Reality, we were all on edge. But despite our fear, we were also intrigued by what lay ahead. We knew that this was no ordinary escape room, and we were determined to see it through to the end. The game master led us to the second room, which was decorated like an ancient tomb. The walls were lined with hieroglyphics, and there was a faint smell of incense in the air. We looked around the room, searching for clues, and found a locked chest in the corner. We tried every key we had, but none of them fit the lock. As we were searching for more clues, we heard a faint rumbling sound coming from below us. It sounded like something was moving deep beneath the floor. We quickly realized that we needed to find a way down to the next level. We searched the room and found a trapdoor hidden beneath a rug. We lifted the trapdoor, and a ladder led us down into a dark, cavernous room. We could hear the rumbling sound more clearly now, and it sounded like it was getting closer. As we explored the room, we found that the walls were covered in glowing runes. They seemed to pulse with a strange energy, and we could feel the air around us growing colder. We suddenly heard a loud hissing noise, and a cloud of mist began to fill the room. We coughed and gagged as the mist grew thicker and thicker, making it difficult to see or breathe. In the confusion, we realized that we had become separated. I called out to my friends, but there was no response. Panic began to set in as I stumbled blindly through the mist. Suddenly, I felt something brush past my leg, and I froze in terror. As I stood there, paralyzed with fear, I saw a shadowy figure moving towards me through the mist. It was tall and humanoid, but its features were obscured by the fog. It moved silently, almost gracefully, towards me, and I could feel its gaze upon me. I backed away, but the figure kept coming closer, and I knew that I had nowhere to run. Just as I thought it was going to grab me, the mist began to clear, and I could see my friends rushing towards me. The figure disappeared into the mist, leaving us shaken and bewildered. We regrouped and continued our search, finding the key to the chest hidden among the runes on the wall. We opened the chest and found a scroll with a message on it. It read, "You have survived the descent, but the darkness only grows deeper." We knew that we were in for even more terrifying experiences as we continued on to the next room of escape reality. We were still shaken from our experience in the tomb, but we knew we had to keep going if we wanted to escape the clutches of escape reality. The game master led us to the third room, which was supposed to be a haunted forest. As soon as we entered, we were surrounded by dense foliage, and the air was thick with the smell of damp earth. We could hear the rustling of leaves and the chirping of crickets in the distance. It felt eerily real, as if we had been transported to a different place altogether. We began our search, looking for clues that would lead us to the next stage. As we were exploring, we heard a distant scream coming from the depths of the forest. It was a blood-curdling scream that sent shivers down our spines. We hesitated, unsure of what to do, but the game master urged us to continue. We knew we had no other choice. We pressed on, navigating our way through the winding paths of the forest. As we went deeper into the woods, the air grew colder, and the sounds of the forest grew louder. We could hear twigs snapping underfoot, and the rustling of leaves as something moved through the trees. We were on edge, waiting for something to jump out at us. Suddenly, we saw a figure in the distance. It was a woman dressed in tattered clothing, with long black hair that obscured her face. She was running towards us, screaming for help. We didn't know what to do, but we knew we couldn't just leave her there. We followed her, but as we got closer, we realized that something was off. Her screams were getting louder, but her voice seemed to be coming from all directions at once. We stopped in our tracks, unsure of what to do, when suddenly the figure vanished into thin air. We were all terrified, but we knew that we had to keep going. We continued our search, and eventually found a small cabin in the heart of the forest. We entered the cabin, and inside, we found a strange object, a black, pulsating orb. As we reached out to touch it, the orb suddenly exploded, engulfing us in a blinding light. When the light faded, we found ourselves back in the first room of escape reality. The game master congratulated us on making it this far and told us that the final stage was waiting for us. We knew that the end was near, but we also knew that we had to face our deepest fears to escape. We were back in the first room of escape reality, but things were different now. The room had changed, and it was clear that we were entering the final stage of the game. We could feel the tension in the air, and we knew that we were about to face our greatest challenge yet. The game master led us to a darkened room, and as we entered, the door slammed shut behind us. We could hear the sound of something moving in the shadows, and we knew that we were not alone. Suddenly, the lights flickered on, and we found ourselves face to face with a terrifying creature. It was a tall, gaunt figure, with pale skin and glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through us. It had razor-sharp claws and a mouth filled with sharp teeth. We backed away, but the creature advanced towards us, and we knew that we had to fight. We began to throw everything we had at it, but it seemed impervious to our attacks. The creature was toying with us, and we were helpless against its power. Just as we thought all hope was lost, one of my friends noticed a small lever hidden behind a bookcase. We pulled the lever, and suddenly the creature began to weaken. It was clear that the lever was the creature's weakness, and we used it to our advantage. We managed to weaken the creature to the point where it was vulnerable, and we were finally able to defeat it. We all breathed a sigh of relief, but we knew that the game was not over yet. The game master led us to the final room, a dimly lit chamber with a large, ornate door at the end. We could hear a faint humming noise coming from behind the door, and we knew that this was where we had to go to escape. As we approached the door, we could feel a sense of dread wash over us. We knew that whatever lay beyond that door would be our greatest challenge yet. We took a deep breath, gathered our courage, and pushed the door open. We were met with blinding light and a feeling of weightlessness. It was as if we were floating in space, surrounded by stars and galaxies. We could hear a voice calling out to us, urging us to come closer. As we moved towards the voice, we realized that it was the game master. She congratulated us on completing the escape room, but she also warned us that we had now become a part of escape reality. We would never truly be free of it. We were shaken but relieved that we had made it out alive. We stepped out of escape reality, knowing that we had faced our deepest fears and had emerged victorious. But deep down, we knew that we would never forget the horrors that we had experienced in that twisted, otherworldly game. We stumbled out of escape reality, shaken and dazed from the horrors we had just experienced. We all looked at each other, unsure of what to say or do. It was clear that we had all been affected by the game in some way, and we knew that we would never forget the terror that we had experienced. As we made our way out of the building, we noticed that something was different. The sky was darker, and the air felt heavy and oppressive. We could hear distant screams and the sound of chaos in the streets. We soon realized that something was very wrong. The world around us had changed, and it seemed like we were no longer in the same reality that we had left. We looked at each other, trying to make sense of what was happening, when suddenly we heard a voice calling out to us. It was the game master, but her voice sounded different now. It was distorted and inhuman, and it filled us with a sense of dread. She told us that we were now trapped in the world of escape reality, and that we would never be able to leave. We knew that we had to find a way out, but we had no idea where to start. We began to wander through the city, searching for any clues that could help us escape. The streets were deserted, and the buildings were twisted and distorted. It was like we had entered a nightmare. As we were searching, we heard a distant rumbling noise. It grew louder and louder until we realized that it was coming from the sky. We looked up and saw a massive, swirling vortex descending towards us. We knew that it was the gateway back to the real world, and we raced towards it. As we approached the vortex, we could feel the force of its pull, threatening to tear us apart. We held on tight to each other, knowing that we had to make it through. We closed our eyes and stepped into the vortex. When we opened our eyes, we found ourselves back in the real world. We were standing outside the building that housed escape reality, and the sun was shining bright in the sky. We all looked at each other, relieved that we had made it out alive. As we walked away from the building, we knew that we would never be the same. The horrors we had experienced in the game had changed us, and we would never forget what we had gone through. But we also knew that we had faced our deepest fears and had emerged victorious. We were stronger now, and we were ready to face whatever the world